homestead. I'm making a day trip up to the land where we're going to be homesteading. Still trying to get all of the land issues worked out so that once we secure it, we're not at risk of losing it after we invest a lot of money. That's something that in the developing countries is a risk, and so you got to make sure you have all your ducks in a row with the traditional leaders and with the government leaders, and that all the documents are done perfectly. And so today I'm going to meet with the district commissioner. Liberia is divided up into, instead of having states like in the US, they have counties, and instead of counties they have districts. And so I'm going to the district commissioner, who's the government head of the district where the land is located, to talk with him about preparing a tribal certificate. That's the first step in obtaining land, after you have agreement with the people who have the property. And so he's going to put together the tribal certificate, and then that certificate will be signed by the district commissioner. It will also be signed by the town chief, who is a female, the paramount chief, who is over all of the chiefs in that area, who's also a woman, and then the clan chief, which I believe is a man, but I haven't met the clan chief yet. And so you know, we're building those relationships up. And so that's what a lot of these trips, even though this trip, round trip takes about 11 hours, so it's going to be a long day, in developing and fostering those relationships. It's incredibly important when you're working in the Liberian culture. And so that's what I'm going to be focused on today. So while I'm on the paved road, I wanted to go ahead and start this message, because once we turn off this road here in about an hour, I'll have about 3 hours of really bad bush roads, and not going to be able to really record too much. And so I'll try to shoot some footage along the way so you can see what the roads look like here in Liberia. Thanks for joining me. One other thing I'd like to mention is that, you know, I said that the first step to obtaining land in Liberia is to get the tribal certificate, and then after that is granted, you do the land survey. And so it's kind of strange, but basically the tribal certificate is all of the traditional leaders, which would be non-government leaders, but people who are you know, sometimes families who have been leaders over property, over communities for generations or even hundreds of years. They agree, yes, you're welcome to come in and you're welcome to use and develop this property. And so it's a certificate of agreement. And then after that, we have the land surveyed. Once the land is surveyed, we'll put cornerstones in place. The survey process is interesting because up until this point, when you get land surveyed, it's a very traditional way where they bring in surveying equipment and crews, and in our case we have about 25 acres, and even with that, it could take a couple of days to complete the survey. We spent 2 days previously on the land, cutting through the jungle all along the perimeter of the land. It took a long time, but actually when you look at the jungle we had to cut through, it went surprisingly quick. And so when they do the survey, traditionally, again, using survey equipment would take a couple of days. But just within the last few months, there's a new company that has launched that is using drones and GPS to do the survey. And so we're looking at contracting with them to complete this land survey. So that one advantage is lower cost, the second advantage is quicker service, the third advantage, and this actually for me is the most important one, this is the one that I find I'm very interested in, is the fact that all of the data will be sent to a company in Germany who's going to develop a topographical map, accurate, I think that they said within 1 centimeter of elevation. And so I'm going to be able to get a map of this entire property that will show me where the water will flow. So when we have 24 hours of rain and it dumps more than a foot of rain during the rainy season, you know, I want to see where the water is going to go, because we're going to be doing construction. We're going to be building not only a house, We're going to be building a school for our children. We're going to be building a training center for the development projects we're doing. We're going to have in that training center some guest rooms. We're going to be building a garage and a shop. So there's going to be construction. And then in addition to that, how I lay out the farm is going to be very important. Where do I want to leave trees and vegetation? Where do I want to put crops in? Where do I want to develop a forest garden? I believe this concept of having a food forest is very important, and it's very applicable here in Liberia. That idea of every tree having a purpose, and under every tree having plants that have purpose. Plants that provide nourishment and provide food are the ones you want to keep. But at the same time, if you're in an area where you want to plant a traditional crop, and you want to clear some land, you don't want to clear it in an area that is highly erodible. And so if we're on a certain slope, or if it's clear from the drone map that this area will be highly erodible, I want to leave the vegetation there. I want to hold that soil. The soil, especially in tropical areas, is very important, because once you clear it, it becomes nutritionally depleted very quickly. We want to introduce agricultural practices that are different than what's traditional here. Traditionally here, it's slash and burn. They will cut down anywhere from 5, I've even seen plots as large as 80 to 100 acres, where they will clear cut almost all the vegetation, they will burn it. And yeah, that provides a great advantage when it has to dealing with weeds, dealing with insects and bugs, but it also destroys a lot of the beneficial bacteria in the soil, a lot of the beneficial properties of the soil. And so that's something that we want to preserve. So find a way to find that environmental balance where we can grow crops, but we can maintain the quality of the soil, even improve the quality of the soil. It's something that we're definitely driving towards. I also want to develop this idea of, I'm calling it canopy gardening or canopy farming. And that is the approach of preserving the rainforest canopy. It's ecologically important, environmentally important to preserve that, not just clear cut and farm and destroy canopies that have been growing for generations. And so we know that some plants love growing in the shade. They love growing in high humidity environments. And so we know that coffee, premium coffee, a lot of that is shade grown. I see here in Liberia, cocoa is grown in the shade. And so what other plants will thrive in that shade environment? And so we can use that, stay in a good symbiotic relationship with the rainforest and with that ecology there, and at the same time produce food and develop healthier diets. So our work in Liberia is really focused on 3 main areas. The first one, and most important one, is on people's spiritual health. As Christians, we believe that we each need to be reconciled to God. And so coming and sharing the good news with people is our core goal, is our core purpose in Liberia. Our second area of focus here is on people's physical health. Some have called Liberia a Garden of Eden. And in all seriousness, you can throw seed on the ground and it will sprout and it will grow. You can take a cutting off a tree, just cut it off with a knife, stick it in the ground, and it will grow. It will put out roots. And so there's fantastic opportunities, amazing opportunities for agricultural and livestock development here. But still we see malnutrition. Still we see really unbalanced diets where they just focus in one type of food. And so even though they're overwhelmed with certain vitamins and minerals, in other parts of their diet, vitamins and minerals are totally missing. And so we see great opportunities for that. And also part of physical health is helping families in crisis. Another area that we see is mothers of multiples struggling to feed their babies, not being able to produce enough milk. Multiple births are very common here in Liberia. And so using things like moringa, which improves milk production, it's mostly studied in animals, it also does that in human beings. And so providing improved diet, improved vitamins, and so that mothers are able to take care of their babies. We also see, Liberia has among the highest maternal mortality rates in the world, and so helping families who have a newly orphaned baby and try to keep those families together and help those families provide for that baby, getting them through that crisis is also. The third area of focus is societal health. Liberia has, at least in recent history, had to deal with a lot of hardships. War, 1980 there was a military coup followed by a decade-long dictatorship. There was a second coup after that, followed by 14 years of civil war. And then as recently as 2014, they had the Ebola outbreak, which caused a lot of destruction to families and society. So they've gone through a lot of hardship in that respect. And so there's a lot of reconciliation that needs to happen, a lot of healing that needs to happen. And that's something where we can't separate the spiritual matters from the physical matters, from the governmental matters. And so with our work, we want to focus on building relationships, helping maintain peace. And that starts at the individual relationship level. Because if we can live in peace with our neighbors, then we can live in peace with our communities. Then we can live in peace with neighboring communities, with neighboring clans, with neighboring tribes, with neighboring countries. And so building that foundation of peace, a lot of our differences can be settled in ways through dialogue and through talking and through working together, through understanding each other. Okay, so I had a good meeting with the district commissioner. Just kind of got the ball moved forward a little ways, and so hopefully next week he'll have the tribal certificate completed and we'll be able to meet with all the chiefs to sign it. I also stopped through and talked to the town chief of the town where we're doing the development, where we're going to be homesteading, and hadn't talked with her for about a month, so that was good. Sat down and discussed renting a little room from her where I can put some rice and supplies, be able to put a mattress there and have a place to sleep while we start construction. So it's a good trip so far. So I'm just heading back, just a couple 15-minute meetings, and that's it. Long drive for a short meeting, but really critically necessary.